Hi Homeworthy, I'm Michelle. Welcome to my home in Texas. I can't wait to show you around, so come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hello, I'm Michele Howell. I'm owner and founder of Vintage Home Designs. I have a blog where I love to share home decor ideas, lifestyle, entertaining ideas. And we are at my home today in Rockwall, Texas. So we bought a lot about 10 years ago in this very quaint and charming little neighborhood in Rockwall. And we rented a home for 2 years while we designed this home. Over those 2 years, we searched for and bought architectural pieces and some vintage things and just lots of things with detail to add to the home to give the home some character to a new build home. So the outside of my home is basically a farmhouse style. We have a white board and batten home. Part of it is white brick, but we painted it all white. It has a metal roof. So the outside of it very much is a farmhouse style. The inside of the home, I have some different styles inside. I use a lot of neutral decor, so I'm able to marry a few different styles and things together. When you enter our home, you come right into a large great room area that I have divided into two spaces, our dining area and our living room. So let's go over and take a tour of the living room first. So in our living room, a couple of the things that are details I wanted to point out that we use to add character to our home are these, one thing is these vintage corbels. I wanted to create the fireplace mantle out of those. I actually bought these at a resale shop in South Texas for $40 when we were building the home. The mantelpiece itself was built out of remnants of some 12-inch tongue and groove board that we used to create the vaulted ceiling in our bedroom. And we had some remnants left, so we created this mantle and also the beams on the ceiling. Those are solid wood, and they were part of a barn tear down we actually found in a town close to our home. We went one day and purchased literally a side of a barn and went back and picked it up the next day. We used the 12-inch tongue and groove on the ceiling in our bedroom, and then the posts that held up the walls of this barn became beams for our ceiling. So it added a lot of character to that. So brick fireplace, I opted to paint that white because I just wanted a very soothing, subtle palette in our home. To cover the fireplace when it's warm months and we're not using the fireplace, I created or remade this fireplace screen. I bought it many years ago when my colors were different and it was black and it was ornate and had a painting on it. So I repainted it in neutral colors and used a really cool stencil on it to cover this black hole of the fireplace when it's not in use. So the bookcases on either side of the fireplace, I love to display things that I collect. Some of them being vintage books. I have a thing for vintage books and for transferware, especially brown. You can see my collection of some of my brown transferware here, and also a piece of the blue. There's just something classic to me about blue and white. So I pull those little touches of blue and white out for spring and summer. My mother is an artist, and so she did some sculpture pieces of my daughter when she was young. And so I love to display, here's one of the pieces here. So that is definitely a treasure to me. I have a collection of vintage wicker demijohns that are on the top shelf, and more of the brown transferware, family photos, And this is just another one of those little fun collections I like. I don't know why, but I love these little vintage yarn balls, thread balls. So I have those just stacked in a vintage basket, which is another love that I have. Lots of baskets in the house. So in the living room and in a lot of areas in my home, I love to layer rugs. I think layers add a coziness and character. So I have a large, very neutral rug on the floor that covers the whole space, and then a smaller vintage Turkish rug, which I love buying those and using those all over the home. It's still a neutral pattern, but it layers well with this, and again, it adds more texture, it adds some character, so I love to do that. And the trunk that I have that I use as a coffee table was my great-grandfather's, and it was a little beat up, and it was a darker wood and stained in some places. So I did a bleaching process on that because I really prefer the lighter woods. And I love having that. It's like a family treasure. So I love using that for my coffee table. And also it offers storage for blankets and things when we're not using those in the warmer months. Again, I love to use a neutral palette, light colors, whites, creams. So all of the furniture in this living room is actually slip covered. And I chose the white because it was a great neutral background. I changed the pillows out seasonally. So regardless of what patterns or colors I'm using, it works with the white. It's also so easy to bleach this. I have 2 young granddaughters, so I don't have to worry about them climbing on the furniture with chocolate on their fingers because it bleaches easily. And the chair and ottoman that are slip covered, I actually bought probably 30 years ago at a furniture store, which I think it's probably the only piece in my home that I have left that was bought at a furniture store, because I buy vintage, I buy estate sale, I just like one of a kind. And it had a different fabric on it, and I loved the feel of the chair so much. So when we were moving into this home, I had it recovered in the white slip cover, and the back of the chair is covered in a French grain sack. So when you come in my front door, you can immediately see the back of that chair. So it added some character to the back side of the chair. Some non-negotiables for me were hardwood floors in the home, and I wanted some brick flooring to add a warmth and a character to the home in some areas. I had that in my previous home, and it was one thing I knew that I would really miss. So I wanted that. I wanted to have a metal roof, and I just wanted to be sure and add lots of architectural things and detail, again, to make the house my own, to make it comfortable and cozy, and to add lots of character to a new build home. Okay, so let's head into the dining room. Another piece I wanted to point out is a side table here I have in this area that divides the living room from the dining room. That was a piece of my great-grandmother's. It also was a little scratched and in disrepair, so I did the bleaching process on that and achieved this beautiful light wood look. And again, I love having that piece and the trunk in my living room that were my great-grandparents. So in the dining area, you can see our staircase. And one thing that my husband really did not want in this house was to walk in the front door and be looking at a staircase. So we designed it where it would be on one side of the home. And he also had this idea to keep the back of the stairs open. And I wasn't real sure about that because it was going a little bit more modern than I wanted. But I'm so glad that we did it because it really keeps this space really open and it doesn't look so closed in. So that ended up to be a really great idea that he had with that. My dining table is a huge round table. It weighs a ton, and there's kind of a story with that. Many years ago, 20 probably at least, I was in a thrift store, saw the table. It was a light wood color, kind of an early American, and I didn't love the color, but I already knew that I wanted to paint it. But when I went to purchase the table, they told me it was part of display. So every few weeks I would go back, and one day I was in there and they told me they were going to be moving the store to a smaller space. And so I asked the store manager, if you're moving to a small space, would you possibly be getting rid of that? They agreed to do it. They told me they would sell it for $120. and I painted the table, and it has been through 3 moves with me now. I don't think I would ever part with this table because there's just something really great and conversational about putting a lot of people around a round table. I can easily seat 8 here, and we can squeeze in 10 if we need to. So back to my love for hosting and entertaining, it just is a really cozy, intimate table for gathering a lot of people here. I love hosting and entertaining friends and family, and I traditionally host Easter, Mother's Day, Thanksgiving, and New Year's Day. New Year's Day is a smaller setting. I have about 5 couples that are friends, and years ago we started a tradition of gathering here for lunch on New Year's Day. I have a traditional menu, everybody looks forward to it, and we can all fit around this table. And then for the other holidays, I can sometimes have 20, I've even had 30 people here before. So we will have people here and in different tables in my home. And I love coming up with a theme for tablescapes and just making everybody feel really special and welcome. So layered table settings and place cards and that sort of thing that just really brings me joy because I get to use my creativity to do that, and the end result is hosting and gathering my friends and family and everybody being here and really feeling like you went all out to make it really special for them. So in this space to float the table in the center of the room, I ended up with a lot of extra space over here, and I found this great drop leaf table on Facebook Marketplace several years ago, and it's great for a narrow table for a day-to-day because you can walk around the table easily. If I needed to, I can pull this out and either side will flip up, but it's great for like a buffet table if I need to do that. But I love to decorate it here for the season. 2 extra dining chairs, those are the ones we can pull up for this table if I need to seat more people. And I have this cool architectural window with the diamond shapes that I just stood in the window between myself and my neighbor. You can't really see in or out that window from outside very much, but I didn't want to block it with window treatments and block this beautiful natural light. So that the window just gave a little bit of another barrier of privacy to some degree, and it added a really cool architectural element with the diamond shapes of the window. This lamp is one of my favorites. I think it's like a stone or concrete. It weighs a ton. I bought this, I don't know, probably 20 plus years ago, a pair of them at an antique store for like $40. There was no shade on it. And somewhere along the way, I found this cool one that is burlap and it says antiques, which was perfect for me, and it happened to fit the lamp. Most everything on this table, in fact, everything on this table except this candle, was either thrifted or estate sale. I have this beautiful linen Michelangelo book. I found at a resale place. This white stone fruit bowl or topiary was thrifted. Book was thrifted. The ironstone soup tureen resale shop or estate sale. And again, this was an antique store years ago. So I love to find those deals, but one-of-a-kind pieces by shopping flea markets and estate sales. So I also have this very strange looking little, it's like a deconstructed stool, which serves absolutely no purpose, but I love the story that this tells. I love the detail of these legs. And so I bought it and just left it like this. And I keep it just tucked under this table for just a little added character. Again, it serves no purpose, but it fits there and it gives another layer of detail. So I find all of my frames, again, same places, estate sales, garage sales. I found one last week that was a huge ornate gold frame with a canvas in it. I don't know that I'll keep the canvas painting, but it was $5 at a garage sale. So I pick those up occasionally because I even like to layer them in places and not even put anything in them. It just creates its own interest when they have that chippy detail, and layering several of them together. It just creates some beautiful decor. My table centerpiece, I love to change up at least seasonally. Sometimes I keep this one fairly simple because when you walk into the home, you can see past this table into the living room where I have all of these bookcases. So a very busy centerpiece here can become very busy looking with this as a backdrop. So I typically keep this fairly simple. And this basket was, it's a vintage basket. It's huge and it's fabulous. And I bought it for about $10 at a garage sale last summer. And we are fortunate to have privet and wild honeysuckle blooming behind our house. So this time of year, I just fill all the vases inside the house with this wonderful smell because it's very short-lived. So I just put a large vase of water inside the basket and filled it, and it's wild and it's loose and it's natural, and I just love everything about that. I have a cottage garden, cutting garden outside, and we have the greenery behind our home. And most of the year, because we're in Texas, other than maybe January and February, we have a lot of things blooming and still green. So I often, in fact, most of the time, have those flowers and greenery that I just go out and pick out of my yard to put in vases and things in the home. And moving from the dining room back toward our front door, I had mentioned the stairs before. So the first level of the stairs obviously has the treads on the back, and then the next two layers are the ones that are open. And it's a stained wood on the top of the stairs. And a couple of years ago, I decided I wanted a staircase runner. I mentioned I love the vintage rugs. So the man that I buy from online had this really beautiful neutral with all browns and cream tones that would fit the width of our stairs. And so my husband put it on the stairs, literally stapled it down, and just took it up to the wall on the first landing. So it just gives a lot of warmth and character here. And I mentioned I love baskets. So I have this vintage artillery basket that I use at the entryway, and another one of my collections is vintage wooden canes. I just love them. I don't know what that attraction is, but I see them often at thrift stores and estate sales. Very inexpensive. I probably have never paid more than $5 for one. And I have a collection here, and I have one at my back door. So just adds a little detail and character here. And I have a large basket at the first landing. It is a vintage basket with straps on it. I really don't know what that is. I wish I knew its story. But it was just a great way to soften the corner of the first landing of my stairs, and it's just filled with dried branches and dried hydrangeas. Okay, so let's go take a tour of the kitchen, but on the way I want to point out these fabulous doors and probably my favorite architectural piece in the home. These doors were off of a carriage house barn in Iowa. They are each door is 6 feet wide and 10 feet tall, and they weigh a ton. Luckily, I found them when we were first designing the home, so we were able to put an extra header beam in the wall to be able to support these in a long barn railing system. And the idea was that these doors can slide closed and close my kitchen area from my living room. It ends up that we don't really do that very often, but it just adds such a wonderful focal point in this room and when you enter the home. So I have always had a love for design, interior design, fashion. My mother is a fine artist, and so I grew up in a home with her painting and drawing. And although that's not my talent, I was exposed to color and design. So I've always loved interior design. So Vintage Home was started in 2001, and I actually had a partner at the time, and for 6 or 7 years we did some interior design work together, and she phased out in 2008. So since then I have had the business on my own. During that time I had a storefront. It was so time consuming, and as much as I loved it, it was mostly home decor, gifts, and that kind of thing. As much as I loved it, it was taking me away from being able to design for others because I couldn't man the store and do a lot of design projects. So in 2018, I decided to close the store and really focus more on doing some interior design for clients and focusing on my blog and Instagram and being able to share ideas for making your house a home, for some DIY things, for creating tablescapes and sharing with others how I do that, how I find those things that are budget friendly to be able to, for anyone to be able to do that. So we're in my kitchen now, and I wanted to point out this hutch, this piece of furniture. So this backs those fabulous doors that are in the dining room. And like I said, we kind of designed that space and that opening around those doors, which created a certain size in here. And I wanted to be sure and address the whole wall. I wanted a hutch here, an open front, and I wanted to be sure and address the whole wall with it and not lose space by just putting a small piece. And I had found those doors at the Round Top Antiques Festival in South Texas, which I'm sure a lot of you know. And I also found this piece. So it worked wonderfully. All of this is so old, and all of the shelves in here, it's actually 3 tongue and groove pieces of wood that create the shelves. And they shipped this piece to me, and they had taken all of these pieces out to ship them, and they were not marked. So it was like a jigsaw puzzle to get in here to put those pieces back together. But I'm so glad I did it, and so glad I didn't touch the paint or anything. It's an original paint and finish. And it's been a great place to store my collectibles. I collect ironstone. I have a favorite dishes that I collect. These are an Emma Bridgewater pottery from England. And I started collecting these many years ago. So over the course of years of Christmas and birthday, my family would gift pieces to me. And so I have quite a collection now, and it really is one of my favorite things. And again, the soup tureens, ironstone pieces, these are vintage pudding molds that I just think have the coolest detail and shape, all this beautiful crazing with those that adds so much character. So the idea with keeping a open front hutch in here is that I found in my other home, when I didn't have that all the beautiful pieces and the platters and the bowls were in a cabinet. And I didn't think about using them as much. They weren't bringing me a whole lot of joy being in the cabinet where I couldn't see them. So I decided with doing the open front, I could display them, enjoy them every day, and we actually use everything in here. There's nothing off limits. And so that was the idea between this big open piece here. And I love to decorate and change the top of it seasonally, at least 4 times a year with the spring, summer, fall, Christmas. All of that gets changed, and I really enjoy coming up with a different way to design it every year. I've been collecting those vintage botanicals for years with the idea of doing a gallery wall. I never really thought about putting them there, but when I was thinking of what I would do this year for spring and summer, I remembered those. And so they landed there, and I really enjoyed having those out. Okay, so in the kitchen, again, this truly is the heart of my home. This is where I love to be, to cook and entertain the family and friends. This center island is 4 feet wide by 10 feet wide, and it's a great place for me to just prep and cook, and also I can clear all of these decorative things off and do a huge buffet down both sides of this island, which is what we do when I host the large holidays like Easter and Thanksgiving, when I can have 25 to 30 people here. It's perfect for that. This is a wood top. I went to a wood salvage yard and I chose a wood that I liked, and they made the top for me. It actually was a dark wood, which is the underneath side. And a few years ago, I decided I wanted to change it up. So we flipped it over and just sanded it down. And I kind of did a process to create a lighter wood look on this. And then my countertops are concrete. So they literally poured those off-site and brought them in here and set them. So they were, massive heavy. But I wanted kind of just a casual industrial look in this kitchen. And this was kind of the first thing that came to mind. my farmhouse sink, which goes along with the farmhouse style of the outside and some of the elements inside my home. And then I have this great bay window, and it actually has windows that can crank out, so I can open those weather permitting. So I have my plants. I love plants and gardening, so my plants love the space because it gets so much natural light here. And the plants add a green living character to the home. Another set of vintage corbels similar to the ones that I have on the fireplace mantle in the living room. Another flea market find. And this was a couple years after we moved into the home. I found those and really wanted to use them to add that another detail of architectural elements to the home. So I had my husband mount those on either side of my kitchen sink in a large, to frame in this large area around this bay window. I created the 2 glass doors on either side of the sink because I feel like it created kind of an openness instead of all of the cabinets being closed in. And I did want to display some of my white dishes and my pretty glassware. So obviously those cabinets stay fairly neat, but that's why I kept it to just the 2 sets of cabinets, because obviously I didn't want glass front everywhere, or then, they have to be neat and tidy all the time. So I just like the openness that it creates when you're looking at the sink end of my kitchen. On the island, when we're not entertaining and using it for food prep, I keep a bowl of fruits and vegetables out here that we do use daily. And I have this really cool large, it's a wine opener that I found years ago at the Pottery Barn outlet. I really, really wanted this, and it was a lot more than I wanted to pay. And I was in their outlet store one day and I saw one and it was half price. So I grabbed it, and it's just, we use it, it does work. And it's just a really cool conversation piece in the kitchen. And I love candles, so I always have my candles displayed here. And I have a tower that I have plants on, and then things we use every day, like our napkins, our salt and pepper. I use vintage silverware every day. So I keep that there. And I also love lamps. I rarely use overhead lighting. I have lamps everywhere, and I wanted one on this island, but I didn't want a cord running. So since this is wood, my husband cut the plug off of the end of the lamp and drilled a hole just small enough to thread the electrical cord through. And then when he got it through, he attached the plug back. And there's a wine refrigerator underneath this, so it already had a power source, so it's plugged in. So you can see the little bit of the cord here, but I just tuck my little flowers in there and it camouflages that. And then I have my candle, my lamp on, and this stays on most of the time. In the kitchen, I wanted a really different detail on the ceiling. And my idea was to buy planks of vintage beadboard, chippy paint, and that sort of thing. And I quickly found it was going to take forever to find enough, because this area, kitchen, sitting area, breakfast area, and all the way down out the hallway to my back door is so big, it was going to take so much. And as I started finding it, it was going to be very pricey and take too long. So I opted for the panels, the 4x8 sheets from just Home Depot or Lowe's. And they placed those up there and then just put thin strips of wood in between to hide the seams, and we painted it all white. So I kind of achieved the same look, but definitely much more on a budget. And then the lights over the island, when we first moved in, I had more of a farmhouse industrial light that was up until probably a year or maybe 2 ago. And my taste was changing a little bit with wanting to get away with the traditional farmhouse look. And I love baskets and woven things, so I found those at our house, and we changed those out. So I'm really loving the texture that adds over the island. So one last detail that I want to point out in the kitchen, that's another one of my favorite elements, is this cool arched door. This goes to my pantry. I have 5 or 6 vintage doors in the house that I bought before and had the carpenter frame those doors in to be able to use different doors. This door I found when we were designing the house behind a friend's antique store, literally just leaning against the wall. The paint was peeling off, and structurally it was in good shape, but the paint was in disrepair. And I left. I went back and forth 2 or 3 times because I couldn't really decide if I wanted an arched door. But that's one of those things when it keeps coming back to you and you wish you bought it. I went back and I bought it. And I'm so glad that we did. I stripped the paint off and they just had it painted, repainted white. The one regret I have is that in hindsight, when I stripped the paint down to the natural wood, I really wish I had left it because it lost a lot of the chippy detail when it was painted white like the trim. But anyway, I love it either way. I did leave this vintage doorknob, the black enamel doorknob in this back plate was original, so that stayed. So I really, really love this door and the character that it adds to this space. My favorite area in the home is probably, it's a culmination of several rooms because my previous home was a ranch style and all of the homes, all of the rooms were really closed off from one another. I love to entertain and I love to host, and so we would have people over, and as you probably know, everyone wants to gather to the kitchen. Well, my kitchen was small, so we would all be stacked on top of each other. So when we designed this home, we wanted an open floor plan and where it would overflow from the kitchen to the living. And so we did that. So I have a large kitchen that opens to a sitting area that also opens to the back patio, which is where we are. And I have French doors along the whole back of the house from the kitchen through the living room, and we can open all of those French doors and extend that hosting and living area. And it's also enclosed with clear garage doors on the very back of the house. So even in the winter months, if it gets cold, we're in Texas, so it doesn't get super cold, we can close those garage doors, light the fire back here, and open the French doors, and within about 30 minutes, we can heat this area. So that was a big deal to me, to be able to host a large group and have space for everyone. So from the kitchen area, we have the sitting area. And funny story about this, when we designed the house, this was actually where that dining table was in the front. And I had a very small sitting area over on this side of the room, but it could only accommodate 2 chairs because it had to remain a walk-through. So one night, several years ago, my husband and I are sitting here realizing we had this massive dining table in here and it's just us, so we never used it. So we kind of did fruit basket turnover that night with the furniture, and my dining table landed in the entryway and my sitting area landed here. And the breakfast table that was in the front room where the big table is landed there. And we were able to buy a sofa and create a full, almost living room in here for a lot of people to sit. We use this every day. My husband and I sit in these chairs every morning and have coffee and discuss our day. And when we have people over, like I had mentioned before, they can sit here and be a part. I can be a part when I'm cooking, entertaining, setting up the buffet, or whatever that may be to get ready for hosting. I can still be part of the conversation, and everybody has a comfortable place to sit here. And the French doors open to an extended living area on the patio. So if we have a lot of people here, we can even open that as well. In this space, I also use the layered rugs that I mentioned in the living room. I love to do a large neutral textured rug that encompasses the whole space, and then a vintage Turkish rug laid on a diagonal in this space. And I just got this rug recently, and I actually took the vintage rug away to see if I like that, and it just really took away something. Something about the layering just adds a neat detail and the character. So that landed back there. And I use a narrow wooden bench that I repainted. It's been with me through several moves as the coffee table because a large coffee table here didn't work because this is a pass-through to go to outside. And I wanted to have a place for somebody to have a drink. I also like to decorate it with stacks of coffee table books. So that enabled me to have a coffee table and not impede this walkway. So the furniture pieces in this space, I started out here with just an IKEA love seat that was a slip-covered, which I really loved, but it was exactly like this sectional that's behind it in my living area. And I really have this thing for cane. And I found this beautiful antique cane sofa in a resale shop for about $60. It was covered in awful burgundy velvet, these cushions. So I found just a white duck cloth, took it to an upholsterer, and he recovered the cushions for me. And they can be removed and washed as well. So again, I went with the white so it could be bleached. It gives me a great neutral background to be able to change out the pillows here seasonally, and I just really love this piece. And then the other seating areas in here are a kind of a club chair. It's very comfortable. My husband usually sits in this chair. It's covered with just a drop cloth. I bought it in an antique store very inexpensively a few years ago. And then my chair is a woven that I bought on Facebook Marketplace several years ago. And then I just have an ottoman that a friend made a slipcover for me. And I love the texture that the woven chair adds in here. And it kind of plays off of the woven lampshades over my island, and then some baskets and things I have scattered along the house. The side table is that beautiful light wood that's very much a European look. That was being refinished in the back of an antique store I was at, and I asked them if they would sell it as is, and they did, and I've had it for years, and that's probably my favorite table outside of my large dining table. So the light fixture in this space was the original fixture that I bought for the space, but it did not have the lamp shades. And I was really wanting to change it up recently. I started looking at other light fixtures, but I really still liked this one. So I had the idea to buy a fabric covered lampshades. The problem was I couldn't find any that was a neutral pattern that I liked, and they were all so pricey, and I had to have 6. So I ordered drum shades on Amazon, found a set of clearance pillows at HomeGoods that I loved the fabric, took them apart, and covered those lampshades myself. Very inexpensive fix, did it in an afternoon. So it really changed up the fixture without me going to buy a new fixture. And one other thing I wanted to point out in this space is I like to sit here and read, and there is no floor plug here. Since this was the dining area, we didn't add a floor plug, and I really wanted to have a lamp. So this lamp actually doesn't plug in. It has one of the rechargeable light bulbs that you use, and then it has a remote. So it doesn't produce a lot of light, but it's enough that we can use it here for reading. So that's just a good quick fix if you need a place for a lamp and you don't have an outlet. I think to create an inviting and welcoming home, to me, is first of all surrounding yourself in your home with things that you love, that bring you joy, because I think then that you're going to naturally portray that to others. Like I said, I love to host and entertain, love creating, getting creative and thinking out of the box with ways to create tablescapes and hosting friends and family. I host a lot of the big holidays here, and we'll have family, extended family. So I think just curating your own look in your own space, despite what the trends say, despite what the color of the year is, or what others think you need to do. Because I think at the end of the day, you'll end up finding that the trends will fade. It's not you, it's not your space. And so I think that that's important, is just stay true to yourself and create a space that you love, and others will feel welcome in your home as well. So my tips and tricks for adding character to a new build home are, like I mentioned before, I love to shop for things that have detail, architectural pieces. Like, for example, I bought a fireplace surround from a home teardown in a city nearby to put around our fireplace. It has a lot of architectural detail. We bought some wide board and batten siding that we covered the ceiling of our bedroom, a vaulted ceiling. So things like that added warmth, added character, and just made it a little bit different. I use a neutral palette in my home because I like different styles. I like the cottage style. I like the chippy and vintage, but I also have some elements of traditional. And I love some things that English and French cottage style have, European antique. So because I like those different styles, I've kept my palette neutral because I'm able to marry some of those things and it not look busy or hodgepodge. If I had a lot of styles going on and a lot of color going on, it might be a little crazy looking and not make sense. Okay, so off of the kitchen in the sitting area is my breakfast area. So this is a table that will seat 4 to 6, and it's just a great size if just my daughter and son-in-law are here, or we have friends over. It's a great place like to play a game or play cards. I just recently put this check tablecloth on it. I love check fabrics because that kind of is a detail you'll see a lot in English country or French country design, and I really love both. Typically I don't have a tablecloth on that, and it's just this really beautiful light wood color table. I just thought this was a fun change for the season. And more of this honeysuckle that I cut from the backyard in a thrifted swan vase. And I recently acquired these beautiful cane chairs, Facebook Marketplace. It was a set of 8, and I am having new slip-covered cushions made for those in white, of course. And my china hutch, that also changes out seasonally with a lot of my collections. Right now I have a lot of my white ironstone soup tureens in there. That's something I love to collect. So I have a lot of those in there now. So on the wall in the breakfast area, I changed this out seasonally too. Usually I have a collection of white plates that I hang here, but I found this really cute canvas. It's kind of a wall organizer back last fall, and I ordered it. It's part of the Liz Marie Galvin collection on QVC, and I thought it would be so cute to do at Christmas, like an advent calendar. Well, my life was crazy at Christmas, and I barely got my house decorated, so that didn't happen. So I pulled it out for the spring, and just the gardening theme came to mind. So I have some vintage garden tools, a straw hat, seed packets, gloves. So I just kind of staged it to go with the spring and summer decor. So I may keep it up for fall and change it, or that may come down and the plates or something may go up. But I just thought it was a fun touch for the gardening season. And then I just have these 2 wicker basket trunks that I have stacked here. I'm actually looking for another one to make it a little bit taller, and I'm going to use it in another place. So this is a vintage Child's high chair, and I have one of my plants here. It gets great natural light. And then another fun feature, and it's a little unusual for me because it's this turquoisey green. This is a sliding door that closes off my laundry room. I bought this also at the Round Tops Antiques Festival, and the plan was to, of course, paint it white. And when I got it home, I just thought I'm going to lose a lot of that character and detail, like I ended up doing with the art store in the kitchen. So I completely left it. It has original hardware, even has the hole here where the knob used to be. I didn't even replace that. It has the hinges still on it, and I just left it because I love the character. And even though it's turquoise and I don't ever use color in the house, it's just a fun but subtle pop of color as you're going out the back of my house. This door is on the barn slider, a sliding door, and this goes into my laundry room. And I did some fun elements in here because I figure if I have to do laundry, I might as well enjoy the space. So this sink is actually a European animal trough I bought in South Texas in an antique store, and I had the plumber put this in place of a sink. So I thought that was really fun and different. And then on the ceiling in here, I collected vintage ceiling tins. They came in panels of 2, and luckily I found enough. Some of them were discolored and different colors, but I loved it, and it just added a really fun detail to the ceiling in here. And this shutter is an old vintage shutter, and I loved the detail on that. And I hung that there because when they put the where your washer and dryer attaches and plugs in, it is like right here, and I couldn't stand walking in and seeing that. So my husband mounted this shutter for me, and it would lift right off if we had to get to those attachments. I have some of my plants in here because it's beautiful natural light. And this and my bathroom are the only places that I did the cabinetry a different color. I just decided to go with something a little different and darker. So this is a gray color in here. And then we just used a simple butcher block for the countertop here. And then I have a butler's pantry off of my laundry room that just holds my extra dishes and linens and all the things that I love to entertain with that didn't fit in the hutch in the kitchen. When we were building this home, like I said, we wanted to make sure we had a large open area. And I was a little concerned about that because in my former home that we also built, that's one of the reasons I wanted small, cozy rooms that were not an open floor plan, because in my mind, I thought it was going to be really hard to create cozy spaces if it was a large open area. But when we moved here and we decided we wanted that open area to be able to host and entertain, I was a little concerned about how am I going to make this cozy spaces. But it really just all came together, creating a sitting area off my kitchen. And that probably is my favorite space in the house because people can gather there while I'm cooking in the kitchen and have a morning coffee or a glass of wine in the afternoon and I can still be part of the conversation and the experience with that. So I think that was a fear that I had in the beginning, was making my home cozy because of open spaces. But again, I did gathering spaces, created each space its own, but them all flowing together. And it ended up working with it being a cozy space. And again, all of those rooms having their architectural detail. And it ended up working out. So I'm glad that we decided to go with that. So welcome to my patio. This is another one of the favorite spaces in my house because we love to entertain out here and just sit out here, just my husband and I. So one side is, it's divided into two spaces, a dining area and a sitting area. So this is the sitting area. And I have a sofa out here that it's not outdoor furniture. It is a down-filled sofa that is slip covered, which is great because it gets really dusty out here. But as you'll see in a minute, this space is enclosed by clear glass garage doors. So we can keep those closed. It doesn't really get that dirty out here and it doesn't get rained on or anything. So I'm able to have a real sofa out here, which is great if we want to lay down and watch TV, watch a movie. And then I have this just IKEA oversized club chair with an ottoman for someone who wants to, my husband may sit here, I lay on the sofa, vice versa. And then just in a little extra chair tucked in the corner if we have friends out here. And the fireplace hearth is a bench seat. So we can actually seat a lot of people out of here, although it's not a huge space. And then we have the outdoor fireplace, which actually is a wood burning fireplace. So we use that a lot when the weather is chilly. But I don't like having just that big black hole when we're not using it. It's already warming up here in Texas, so we won't be using the fire anymore. So I recently just put a lot of my collection of terracotta pots and just filled the fireplace with those it just kind of says gardening and spring and summer, and it camouflages the big black box. And then I have this is where I was talking earlier about having architectural detail out here, and I bought this fireplace surround that just has this beautiful carving and detail and all this wonderful chippy paint. I bought this when we were building the house at a tear down in a town that was close by. So this added a really great frame to this outdoor fireplace. And then we do have a TV out here. I hate really having the TV show, but we do use it. But I had this odd gap between here. So for now, I put a collection of my vintage books here just to fill the space. A lot of times I just cut, if I'm doing an event or get together, I may just go in the back and just cut tree branches and just fill this with greenery where you can still see the TV, but it just adds a natural live element. Obviously that doesn't last but a few days, but again, if I'm just hosting something and I want to do it for a day or two, it's a really great filler here. So this is fun to decorate for Christmas and different seasons, but I just thought it was fun to use my vintage books because it's another collection and something that I love. So there's 3 sets of French doors out here. All of those, both sides will open. They open up to my living room and my kitchen and my breakfast area. So we can open all of this, close these doors, heat this space in no time if we need to have this as an extended living area during cold weather. So this side of the patio is the dining area. And again, I don't have to use outdoor furniture out here because it can be protected from the weather. I bought this table fairly recently, well, I guess last year sometime, at a thrift store for $25. It's massive heavy. It was super, super dark. It took forever to strip it, and I thought I wasn't going to finish it. But anyway, I'm so glad that I did. It's actually a drop leaf on all sides. So every side of this table can drop, and it makes a long narrow. So sometimes I have it down all the way. Sometimes I'll leave it up, but I can easily sit 6 people here. We entertain out here a lot. This is where my husband and I like to eat before it gets too hot here in the summertime. This is another fun place. I just like to play with the table centerpiece. So I just have a collection of my terracotta pots, the glass cloches I collect, with just kind of a bird's nest and some seed packets and things to kind of carry out the spring and summer theme. And I have a sink here that's a prep area if we're going to cook or entertain out here. And then I hung some straw hats up again to finish out the summer theme. I'll take those down later and change something out there. I do keep the window up most of the time. And I wanted a lamp out here, back to my love for lamps, but having one with fabric, I thought it's just going to stay so dirty all the time. And unlike the slip-covered furniture, I can't wash that. So I took this old lamp, basically the form or the spine, took the fabric off, and so I can have a lamp out here, and then I don't have to worry about the fabric getting dirty. Okay, so I've mentioned several times throughout the home tour that I have all these gardening elements, the cloches, the terracotta pots here on the table, in the fireplace, and the straw gardening hats, and then my little canvas wall hanging. I love to garden, and I just find great joy in growing flowers and things in a cutting garden that I can bring into the home and that I can share with friends and neighbors. So let me show you my cutting garden. That's one of my favorite places outside. So this is my perennial cottage garden. That was one of the things I really wanted in front of my home, was just a very unstructured, unmanicured flower bed. I didn't want shrubs that had to be really trimmed a lot. I just wanted it loose and airy. And so I picked out, when I was designing it with the landscaper, the flowers and things I knew that I wanted, and he placed them, and we just kind of went from there. So most of these things bloom, and so I'm able to just come out here and clip blooms to create bouquets for my house and for friends and family. Everything here is perennial, so it all comes back. Some of it dies off in the winter, but most of it doesn't. A lot of it stays evergreen, so it doesn't look bare out here. So anyway, it's just a really fun place for me. I think it adds a charm to the front of my home. Home to me is all about hosting, entertaining, and gathering. Again, I love having people here. I love when people feel welcome here. And that is, I think, is just the most important thing to me. And that's when it makes my house feel like a home, when I can gather others here and they feel at home as well.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.